Hello friends, what is going on? It is your good buddy Sam, and it's time for another exciting Max 4 Live tutorial. So we're going to be picking up where we left off last week, taking a monophonic synth and making it polyphonic. Before we do that, I just want to say really quickly that this June and July I'm coming to Paris to teach a Max MSP course, and while I'm there I would love to see some cool audiovisual stuff. So if you have a concert coming up or whatever, let me know. I'd love to check it out. So with that out of the way, let's get started here. Last week we made this simple synth AMXD. It looked like this. Well, it was a bit more complicated than that. It looked like this. The basic parts here, MIDI in, MIDI parse, this gives us MIDI notes. It went down to this thing that did some voice allocation for us. Over here, ADSR generated an envelope. We've multiplied that envelope or applied the envelope to this oscillator and sent that out to live so we could actually hear it. So what we're going to do this time is take most of this away, so almost all of this, except really for this MIDI to frequency, the envelope, the sawtooth wave, and applying the sawtooth wave to the oscillator with multiplication here. All the rest of this that I've highlighted is really just handling voice allocation, and the hidden guts of polytilde, which is the polyphony object in Max, is going to do all of that for us. So we're going to be able to get rid of most of this. But first things first, let's save a copy of this. So I'm going to do Command-Shift-Save and save this as Simple Polyphonic Synth. Simple Polyphonic Synth, the most creative experimental name for a simple polyphonic synthesizer you've ever seen. Cool, Simple Polyphonic Synth. And now we get to do something really wonderfully cathartic, I think. Take all this stuff, so select everything except the MIDI to frequency, ADSR, saw, and multiplier, and just delete it. Just, let go. You can't take it with you. It's just, the Max objects are just that, objects, worldly possessions. Let them go. But keep these ones. Because you can take those with you, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so these are going to be, what the polytilde object will do is load a max patch, or more exactly one max patch for each voice, and then manage sending MIDI messages to each of those voices so that you can play more than one instrument, or more than one voice, or sorry, more than one note at a time. So take these things, we're going to take these things and copy them, and then we want to paste them to a new patch. The only question is, where do we put that patch? Because this patch has to be able to find it. Well, as of, I believe, Max 6, all AMXDs like this, all Max for Live devices, are also Max projects. So they contain, they can reference other patches, media, etc. To actually put things into that patch, come down to the bottom menu here, and you'll see this little keynote looking thing that says Show Containing Project. This will show you all of the patchers, media, code, etc. that your Max for Live device is loading. And then if you click on this plus here and do Add New File, this will show the actual project folder, which, by the way, the actual project folder is not located anywhere near the AMXD that references the project folder. That's how it is. Maybe in a later video we'll talk about how to manage that in what I think is a more healthy adult way. But for now, this simple polyphonic synth project folder is where we can save this new file, which I will call we'll call it saw-poly, because it will take a sawtooth wave and have one sawtooth oscillator for each voice. And then I'm just going to paste in here this MIDI to frequency object, the ADSR that we're working with before, the sawtooth, and this oscillator, this multiplier that applies the envelope to the oscillator. A couple more things to add in here. We'll make an in1, and this will let us send MIDI notes. This is where the MIDI notes will come in, out tilde1. This is where the sound goes out, so you can attach the output of here straight to this out. And then, just like last time, what comes through this in is going to be MIDI notes. So we just need to change these into, we need to get the pitch and velocity from this and apply that to the envelope and to the oscillator over here. So something we had to do last time was use a trigger list and send these out separately. We don't actually have to do that this time, since that was part of the voice management part of the patch. That doesn't matter now that we're going polyphonic. Polytilde guarantees that each one of these little individual voices is only going to be dealing with one MIDI note at a time. So you can just do unpack II to send the frequency, or pitch rather, over here, and the velocity over here. So this MIDI pitch, can go straight into this. Oh, it's an M2F tilde, and that's no good. Okay, change that to an M2F not tilde. This will change that MIDI message into a frequency message. And then over here, we'll do the same thing as we did last time. Scale 0, 127, 0, 1. And then multiply this by itself to generate the envelope. And then the last thing, this is actually basically done. The last thing that we want to do is add in an object called this polytilde. And this polytilde manages deciding when this instrument is busy. It's really key that you have this polytilde object, because it's actually how Max will manage sending different MIDI messages to voices when they become available. This poly takes a signal, and whenever that signal is 0, the object is said to be free. And whenever the signal is non-zero, the object is busy. And because handily, the ADSR will generate an envelope, whenever that envelope is 0, we can assume the note is done. It's not doing anything. So you can connect the output of ADSR straight to this poly, just like this. And this third outlet of ADSR also says, you see it says mute outlet. This you can connect to this poly as well. And what that will do is shut off DSP inside this poly whenever it's not busy. Sorry, whenever it is, yes, free. So when this note's not playing anything, Max will shut off DSP processing for it and save you some cycles. Doesn't matter here, really, because it's just one oscillator, but, you know, good habit. And I think, let's bring it clear yet. So now if we come back into this patch and we can delete this and replace it with a polytilde saw poly, and then maybe 8, the number of voices that we're interested in. And then the last thing that we need to do is throw in here a pre-penned MIDI note. This tells Poly that we want to treat this pitch velocity pair coming from MIDI parse as a MIDI note. And you can send that straight to plug out here. And this will send the audio back to Max. And just for giggles, let's throw in a K slider and change the mode to polyphonic. And then connect that to the output of MIDI parse so that we can see the notes that are being played. And then I'll just do, I'll just select it and do Command-Shift-P to add it to presentation. And then in presentation mode, make sure it's positioned nicely. You actually have to zoom out here because the device, when it's loaded down here, won't be able to zoom in. Save it. And look at that. And now we should be able to play some notes. And get some flawless, wonderful polyphony. How cool is that? So we could call ourselves done at this point, but I want to show you a neat trick that my good friend Peter McCullough just clued me into. The basic problem that we're having here, you may notice that as we play a few notes at a time, 4 notes here, you'll see over here, maybe if I play them at the same time. Well, it was clipping a second ago. The problem is that if you play too many, there you go. So that's 5 notes at once, and you can see that this is clipping. Which is because we're just adding 5 oscillators together, and the result, of course, can occasionally get out of bounds, explode beyond -1 and 1, and cause some distortion. It's hard to hear with this sawtooth wave, but if we were using a waveform with a less rich waveform, you would definitely hear it. So what to do? You know, we could take the output of this polytilde object here, and we could just scale it by 8 or 16 and just give ourselves a lot of headroom. But a slicker solution would depend on the number of notes that we're playing at the same time rather than the number of voices that we had allocated in the first place. So here's the cool trick that you can use. Go ahead and double click on this poly tilde to start editing it. And then here in the bottom left, click this little crayon to go from to modify what it calls a read-only object. And then what we're going to do is create another audio out here, out tilde 2. And we're going to connect this to the output of the ADSR. So now out here, where we have the audio output, and out here we have the envelope that's being applied to that that's being applied to that oscillator, which just so happens to be the highest level that that oscillator can possibly have. The other cool thing is that because all voices are sending to this same outlet, Max will automatically add all of those envelopes together. So if 4 notes are playing at the same time, you could have an envelope here that goes between 0 and 4. So save this, and then back in this patch, you may have to delete and then undo delete to make Max reload this poly tilde and create a new outlet here. But then, check this out. What's coming out of this guy is going to be roughly equivalent to the scale factor that you need to apply to what's coming out of this outlet. So go ahead and throw in a maximum tilde 1. This guarantees that the value coming through here, even when 1 note is playing, it's going to be at least 1. Then square root tilde, so that we go from amplitude to loudness. And then exclamation mark divided by tilde 1. And this 1 divided by the number of notes that are playing at the same time, this gives you a scale factor. And then finally, you can do a little bit of smoothing here with, say, a ramp smooth object. Depending on how aggressive your envelope is, you may want to pick different values here for ramp smooth, but I'm just going to go with 10 samples up and down to smooth out discontinuities a little bit. You may find that you need larger or smaller values there, but that more or less gives us our scale factor. So I'm just going to multiply what's coming out of this poly tilde by this scale factor here, save this, come back into live, start playing. You'll notice no more clipping even as we play a ton of notes. And the fact that each note is being multiplied by this scale factor, the scale factor is proportional to the loudness of all the notes played at once. So even though you're playing a ton of notes at once, there's no real perceptual change in loudness and no clipping. Is that not the greatest trick? I was really happy when I saw that that was a good way to do this. So there you have it. There's the simple polyphonic synth made here in Live. So let's see, next time I think we'll add a little bit of extension to this polyphonic synth and we'll talk about parameters and how Live handles them. So thanks again for watching. Let's see. Number 1, thanks for watching. Number 2, look out for next week. Number 3, let me know if you're doing something cool in Paris. And number 4, just, I don't know, be nice to... Forget number 4. Number 4 I whiffed on. Those 3 things. Remember those 3 things, and I'll see you next time.